Hello, you speakers. I'm Catza.
I'm George.
And I'm Javier.
Welcome back to the new episode of our You Speak English podcast. We've previously talked about the dreaded plateau stage. If you haven't listened to episode 100, you are so missing out. But what is important today is to talk about four big problems you need to work on if you're an adult language learner.
Hold on, Catza, did you just say 100?
That's right. Yep,
Oh gosh, how time flies when you're having fun. It's unbelievable. That was already our 100th episode.
that's right.
Wow. Hey, now mentioning something you just said about the plateau stage, that dreaded stage, the plateau. Let's reconsider it, okay? I would like to mention something that I was listening to this guy Stephen Kaufman on his YouTube channel just the other day, who happens to be a polyglot and who appears at language learning conferences, and he was sharing his insight on the plateau stage. This guy, he does have a lot of, interesting content, some which I agree with, some not so much. But this one, I like this analogy. He made an analogy, okay? And about the plateau stage, which I think was very revealing. And I've always thought about it in this manner, okay? And I can't quote him exactly, but he says something, along this line. He says, now imagine, this stage as treading water, because treading water means you're not standing still, you're sort of in the water, you're moving your feet, you're moving your hands, you're basically staying still, but not going anywhere. You're not swimming, you're just there. You're not drowning either, all right? But you're not progressing, okay? But you're in the water. And so when we're treading water in language learning, we're still immersed in the language. We're still using our muscles. We may even be in a lake or in the ocean. We can look around and we can even enjoy the scenery. That we're in that comfort zone, okay? And treading water can be enjoyable. Now imagine you're in the coastline of a nice beach. You're in, for example, Puerto Vallarta, and it can be very pleasurable. And so if you're treading water, we are still exercising our brain, our muscles, and we're immersed in the language. And we need to say to ourselves, this is where I want to be. The comfort zone again. So when I'm treading water, this means that you're not trying to go anywhere. And what we're going to mention today in this episode, okay, is assuming that you do want to go somewhere, you want to progress, okay, in English. So, okay, stay tuned. So, what's coming up next is very, very interesting and very useful for you.
Adult language learner. I'm more of a child language learner. Just as a child language learner, they're more focused on what's fun. So my philosophy is focus it on making it fun, and little by little you'll keep at it. And I agree with George in terms of you got to focus at it on which way you want it to go, but keep it fun and you'll keep coming back for more.
That's right. So stay tuned because you're getting important insights about your speaking practice.
All right, let's begin. One of the biggest challenges that language learners can encounter when trying to acquire a new language or skill is the gap between their understanding and knowledge of it versus their ability to apply it effectively. Okay, this translates to I understand what I read and hear, but I don't speak it. Although some experts mention that this is quite all right up to a certain stage of your learning. Some call it the silent period, the period where your brain is figuring out the language and learning enough words to start speaking. But there should be a smart balance between, deliberate learning and the massive exposure to the language.
That's right, George. But don't fret, guys. This is completely normal to a certain extent. You can change this reality by taking action. And we'll discuss how you can invest a little time in purposeful practice in just a moment.
The second challenge we want to address is the fear of speaking in public. In public means either only one person or a whole bunch of people. This fear comes from the fear of judgment. And yes, it is completely normal. Yes, yet it's something you must start working on If you ever want to carry out a conversation fluently, worry and stress-free.
The number 3 challenge is sticking to your comfort zone. This translates to relying on just a few easy grammatical structures, such as present, past, and future simple forms, and not wanting to explore beyond those. And how nice is it to be understood and start thinking in English? Have you ever wondered why it seems impossible for you to start thinking in English? Well, this is the first reason you may be in a huge comfort zone.
Yeah, totally. Now, it's possible that you may not like this, but you've been blaming external factors such as teachers, schools, and books for your lack of progress, when in reality, it's you who has the control of your reality. Going back to what I mentioned at the beginning, so you need to start swimming on your own. So to sum up this first part of our episode, we have to work on our 4 challenges to see significant improvement in our productive skills, meaning speaking and writing.
That's right. First, I understand more than I can produce. Second, I get stressed when speaking in public. We all do. As a result of fear of judgment. And third, I'm stuck in the comfort zone where it's easy and simple not to explore other grammatical structures. And last, blaming external factors for my lack of progress. Now, I want to highlight one thing. I hear a lot of people say, you know what, teacher? I'm going to go to Canada. I'm going to go to California in the United States so I can improve my English. I have family that have lived in the United States for ages, and their English is not
And they
good.
don't speak it.
No,
Yeah.
they have a pre-intermediate level of English.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you?
No, I don't have family there, but yeah, I
But you know people.
yeah, I know people who actually don't
They
speak the
have a very
language.
good pre-intermediate level of English for
Uh-huh.
like forever.
Or not even so. It's like when I was living in California, I met people who have been there for over 30 years and they still don't speak English.
Yeah, they did. So
Wow.
yeah, that's
Wow.
very common.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
comfort zone is an understatement.
Yeah.
There are also other factors, but yeah, that's one. A comfort zone, other, thing about cultural.
True. Cultural
Right.
aspects. I
Yeah.
agree with George.
Cultural aspects, so
Yeah. I also had a student who was worried about losing her identity by learning a second language, especially English, because she's
Ethnocentrism.
so into pre-Hispanic cultures
Yeah.
and respect for our roots and stuff like that. So she was struggling
Wow.
a lot at the beginning, but then once we addressed this issue, she started making good progress. But
Ah,
she had this kind of like obstacle factor about her roots, things
Totally.
like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Isn't it interesting?
It is. It is interesting. Now, how do you fix it? Well, it's all about mindset. You must work on a mindset and a mindset that you need to build a self-assessment and feedback attitude where you have everything under control. It's like do it yourself. And what type of mindset do you need to fix this problems? Well, growth mindset.
Okay, now assuming that people who are learning a language really mean it. That means they really want to and need to. Okay, let's
Yeah.
put that, right? That statement right there. And now I read a book a couple of months ago, Atomic Habits, which explores the power of small, consistent changes in habits to achieve remarkable results. Okay. Now, this guy emphasizes that the importance of focusing on tiny actions, improving systems rather than setting goals, and using cues, cravings, responses, and rewards to build and sustain habits effectively. Okay. He said, like, we do have all these negative habits. All right. Why is it not possible to create these positive habits? It's easy because we need this reward system, but we also need to make it very achievable, very easy to make it happen. Because sometimes when we make these goals, as you know, they're very unrealistic or too ambitious. And when they're too ambitious, they're not. Will just not follow them. It's like I always say. I'm going to lose 10 kilos in the next 2 weeks. It's
No,
impossible,
not even,
not
Yeah.
achievable.
not even
So we
healthy.
do have, so we do have to make them that these results are doable. They something that you can achieve. Okay. So for instance, if you're let's put this into a learning English context. Okay. So for instance, if you like jogging, okay, or running or something, okay, this is something that you already like to do. So why don't you add a component to this? Okay, add a component to this of meaning, for example, learning vocabulary and listening. So you're, for example, you're at the gym, you're working out, but at the same time, you're listening to a podcast or anything that you really like. And your goal is today, I'm going to listen to a word. I'm going to learn one new word. If you're at that level, something that I don't really understand, but I'm through context, I'm going to learn it. Afterwards, so when you finish, your exercise, write it down, look it up, and then the following day, do the same thing. Listen to the very same podcast, okay, over and over. Do this for at least 30 days. By the end of the month, you will have discovered that by adding just one word a day, or two or three, you've increased your vocabulary, by at least 20 or 30 words. Okay, so this is just an example of how you can change your mindset, doing something that you already like. Because if you're gonna put your mind like, I have to learn English and I have to study for 3 hours a day, 2 hours a day, you're already including that word, that I have to. It already has this negative idea or negative connotation to it.
Of
So you have to
obligation.
do something that is enjoyable. Javier mentioned that, okay, but something also at the same time doable, and sometimes and you do have to see results as well.
It's true. I mean, I could tell you, perfect example is my grandmother. Okay, my grandmother is 70 years old, and she decided to walk just 5 miles, no, 5 minutes every day. Not 5 miles. I'm sorry, and she doesn't walk that long. She decided to just walk 5 minutes every single day. You know, and at the end of 2 weeks, we don't know where the hell she is, to be honest.
You're
I
cruel,
hope
man.
I hope we find her. But that she's being
I
consistent.
hope
You know, she's still
you
doing.
do. I hope you do.
I just, well, all kidding aside, guys, the most important thing, like George said, is keep it consistent. And what I'd like to add to this point is do not sabotage yourself. I have seen so
Yeah.
many people that do not actually believe they can do it. So they'll start speaking Spanish, even at that level where they shouldn't even be speaking Spanish anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like, maestro, ¿cómo se dice? Maestro, ya voy, ¿eh? Sí, sí, sí. Oh, ¿cómo no? ¿Qué pasó, maestro? I mean, just people will come into class and say, buenas tardes. No, you learn how to say good afternoon day one. Start
Exactly.
using the English. Start believing in the fact that you can actually do it. You
Mhm.
know, in lower levels, sometimes every now and then, especially when we're at school, George will drop by and ask me a question. And we'll speak perfectly fluent English. I'll turn around to my class and say, look at that guy. Look at him. Look at me. Did you see how we
Yeah.
spoke? Do you believe you could actually speak like that one day? 90% of the time, they'll say no. And I'll say,
Oh
why not?
no,
Because
no.
you guys live in the United States. You know, you're both native speakers. It's very different. You guys learned it when you were kids. There's no limit, honey.
No.
There's no limit to what you can actually, if you set your mind to it. And just like Catza said, you gotta change your mindset.
Yeah. Now, you've probably heard your teachers tell you you must practice, and then they send you a whole bunch of grammar activities, and that's great. But to get the best out of that is to use it. And now, answer this question. Should you learn a language to use it, or should you use a language to learn it? Think about it.
Yeah, well, look, if you're referring to should we learn English about English, you mean about grammar and rules and all of that, learning the system of a language is important. That is undeniable. However, I do believe that the goal of most language learners is to use a language. Okay, it is also a generational thing, Katz. It's older generations, due to the way they were taught at traditional schools, elementary school, high school. The expectation of learning a language was similar,
Hmm.
to follow the same, same way through sets of rules. In other words, through grammar. And at that time, it worked for them. Yeah.
Right.
Why? Because it was their expectation of how they were supposed to learn the language. Okay. But as time has passed, educational methods, especially in language learning, which has always been a pioneer in education, and has set an example for teaching not only English but other subjects, has evolved in a way where the experience of learning English is less stressful. Adding to all of this, the plethora of resources that are out there right now, social media, YouTube, and endless numbers of apps. The purpose, in my plus 30 years of experience, for most adult learners is to use the language for different purposes, work, travel, etc.
Mhm.
Now, to answer your question, Catza, can I use a boxing analogy?
No.
Oh,
Oh,
that's the one I had
God.
No,
prepared.
please don't.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay.
anyway, my son and I started getting in shape a couple of years back using a very popular video was called Taibo. You heard of it? It's
Mhm.
a series of like cardio, boxing, kickboxing analogies where people are just like throwing it left and right, which makes you move your body. It's something, it's better than nothing. But then I thought to myself, why don't we just learn boxing altogether? You know, at least you have a purpose to it. I mean, you're learning the right way to do it. And if you ever need it, then you can actually use it. You're not just throwing punches up in the air.
Yeah.
One of the
Right.
most thing that boxing has that I just barely understood why we're doing it is shadow boxing. I hate shadow boxing, to be honest. I'd rather be punching the bags or everything else. But the purpose of shadow boxing is to actually envision yourself in a real life boxing situation. So you punch and you move. You don't just throw punches in there because nobody would do that in real life. Speaking should be the same thing. When you practice, envision yourself in would a real speaker do this? In a real life situation, would I get nervous? Would I not get nervous? What would I do with it? How would I go around about it? How would I start a conversation? How would I finish the conversation? And you'll be so much better at what you do.
Okay,
Now,
Javier, now about
yes.
analogies that you mentioned. Okay, I'm gonna jump in about this boxing analogy. I'm gonna get you back with what Bruce Lee said once, right? Punching bags don't punch back.
There
Okay.
you go. Yeah, this is one thing that exactly I've seen guys at the gym go like pow pow. They're killing that bag, but obviously the purpose is to hit it once, twice, and then move. Because in real life, nobody's
They
gonna
get a punch
stand there
back,
going
yeah.
take it. Yeah, punch me. I don't care. You know,
Yeah.
somebody will. You'll punch them once. You might punch them twice, and they'll hit you back or move
Yeah.
out the way. So you should do 1, 2, and move. 1, 2, and
There
move.
you
That's
go.
the idea. And then learn combos. That's a trick. That's why
Yeah,
boxing.
combos like in language combos would be like chunks, right? Or
Yeah, would be
collocations.
like chunks, and you would be structured learning, you know, like
Yeah.
A and B, A and B. You know, so you go
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, and then you
There you
probably will
go.
move back
Yeah.
because that guy's gonna punch you back and then counter punch. So it's basically the same thing. Learning is learning, guys. Now,
Mhm.
here's the technique to achieve this particular goal. Start by working on a worksheet that has a checklist that will help you change the way you usually practice. Because let's face it, input is not practice. I hear a lot of people like, but I'm using this application with an owl on it so much. Well, that's input, honey.
It's
Okay,
input.
where's the practice? If you
And I
want to
gained
learn more about
94%.
I
Yeah,
got
but it's so
90% on this
fixed.
application. Yeah, okay, I watch a lot of boxing videos too. Doesn't mean I'm better.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean I'm
I
better
still
at it.
kick my
Yeah,
butt
and
in the
I
street.
play
I still gotta
Xbox.
put I gotta put the work in, all right?
Right.
The science of input, you can listen. And now, if you don't know about the science of input, you can listen to our podcast episode number 59. And if you still don't follow us, please consider doing it so because you will be notified when we upload new stuff and you won't miss out.
So in other words, guys, there's no shortcut to this, right? There's
No.
no shortcut. So the key is to practice daily with a clear purpose, an open mind to find and correct your own mistakes. Work actively by producing voice notes or videos that can help you work on your way through the anxiety and stress of speaking in public. Speaking in your own language in public is already stressful, let alone in another language. So by recording yourself, you can also listen to yourself and you'll find and correct your areas of opportunity. Focus on your self-assessment on 3 major points.
Okay, these 3 major points would be 1, vocabulary. Find the best words that you could have used when you were recording your voice. Number 2, identify if there's room to explore other grammatical structures. And number 3, most importantly, if you get to a point where you feel confident and you have corrected your sentences, get feedback from a native speaker. Find out if they understood you or if there might be room for improvement.
I totally agree, Catza. Now, I like to do what I call adopt a word. You know, find a word that you like it, like for this week, and just try to use the hell out of it. You know, when I learned the word ludicrous, which means ridiculous, exaggerated, I just used it for the whole week.
I thought he was a
ludicrous.
rapper.
That's true.
That's right too. Yeah, he was.
That's
Oh, he was a
ludicrous.
rapper.
Yeah, well, that's the analogy. But you know, you can connect it to something else. You know, but yeah, that's a ludicrous statement, George. Ludicrous.
Mhm.
What's your favorite word? What's one of your favorite words recently?
Preposterous.
Preposterous. I like that
Per
one. Yeah, that is
the
preposterous.
the one that I've just adopted recently is accommodating.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's very
Accommodating.
accommodating.
Uh-huh.
And there's something that's buzzwords. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, with things that are going on in the States, real life TV. And I noticed that people don't go to jail anymore. They say, I was incarcerated.
Oh,
They use the word a lot.
beautiful.
Isn't that nice?
It's
They go, "Oh,
super
he was in
nice,
jail. No, he's
yeah.
incarcerated currently. Nice. I like
Mm,
that. So
that.
there's
That's
sort
a
of what we call.
five-syllable word, sir.
I know,
Mhm.
but they're called buzzword. Everybody's
Yeah,
like,
where'd you get your C1 certificate, sir?
yes,
Yeah.
well, we did have one, George. We did have a teacher that taught English
Oh,
at a jail. Remember that?
oh,
And
I
she was so
don't.
happy.
really?
And she was so happy about it.
I have no recollection about any of that
A
you're just.
recollection. I do
A
not recollect.
recollection, that's a
I have no
beautiful word.
recollection of that, mister.
Recollection.
I don't recall. I love
I
that
don't
word. Seriously, I don't
recall.
remember. I don't
Yeah.
recall.
Uh-huh.
So
Who do you
every
want
time
to
you
call
practice,
again then?
what?
So
Oh,
if you called me and I didn't pick up the phone, can I say, let me recall you?
recall you. Or like the word demeaning. You heard the word demeaning?
Oh yeah,
Like
demeaning.
insulting,
Yeah.
demeaning. So my son asked me, "What is demeaning?" And I said, "I don't know the meaning of that
The
word.
meaning of that word.
Demeaning. What is
All
demeaning
right,
of
guys. So,
that?" So
hey, getting back to getting
every time
back
you
on
practice,
course.
try to follow these 6 steps, just like George says. Number one, choose a lesson or topic that you actually want to practice. What do you want to do with your English? Do you want to talk to strangers when you travel abroad? Do you work in front desk in a hotel? Do you need to talk on the phone? Listen to key vocabulary and phrases to familiarize yourself with tone, intonation, and rhythm. And that's a very strong
Emphasis.
point because in English we have it. Do not sound monotone. That is
No,
one
we
of the
don't.
main problems of people that from in India that their English tends to be monotone, so it's so difficult to understand just for that simple aspect. Repeat phrases aloud as many times as possible. Start the practice and record your voice or video it, you know. Analyze your recording. This is the hard part. You have to watch yourself again, find your mistakes and correct them in a notebook. Now, and then
Yeah.
what you got to do, you got to change that aspect. Don't just look at the mistakes and say, oh, yeah, my pronunciation is terrible on this, just go home. No, record yourself again, correcting your mistakes and do it over till you actually get it right.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Javier. Now, Ethan Honery, an expert in learning, wrote, if the brain is not forced to respond to a demand, no significant change is needed. This demand comes in the form of deliberate practice and repetition. So remember that engaging in your self-correction will positively affect your performance.
That's right. Oh, well, this brings us to the end of our episode. Let's say goodbye, guys.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening to this episode. And hey, wait, hold on. Aren't we getting today's joke, Javier? Joke of the day?
That's right. That's right. Hit it, Javier.
Well, more than a joke, guys, this is more of a fun cultural fact. You guys have heard about Qatar and places in the Middle East. There's Dubai and there's also Abu Dhabi. And people tend to confuse Dubai and Abu Dhabi. You guys know
Abu
the
Dhabi?
difference? And one of the main differences there is between the two cities. Katza, do
No.
you know?
Yabba
No, I
dabba doo?
don't.
Well,
No.
being the fact that
Dabba dabba doo.
they're conservative, Dubai doesn't like to watch American TV shows like, for example, the Flintstones. They don't enjoy watching the Flintstones, but the people in Abu Dhabi do.
No, not true.
We're gonna get canceled. You know that, right?
Come on, it was good. Come on, you gotta give it to me. That one was good. Come on.
Arist, I hope you got this.
Yeah, you got this. Okay.
Astrid, I hope you got this joke.
And
I
Carol, if
mentioned
you're
Astrid
still
because she's
listening.
always worried about understanding Javier's jokes.
The people in Abu Dhabi do. Yeah, Abu Dhabi do.
Abu Dhabi doo. Okay, now we wrap up. This is it for today. Thank you for tuning in. And remember to subscribe and share. Want to get in touch? Check out our YouTube channel where you can comment on our videos and find us on social media. We're everywhere except for X and Threads at USPK English, the one with the yellow logo. For more information about us, please visit our website at www.uspk.com.mx. And remember,
Perfect practice.
Makes perfect.
all right, until next time, bye-bye.
See you then.